Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCullum, and today we're out on the range with the SIG Legion Flux Raider. Now, this comes as a pistol with a pistol brace on it, and when you extend it, you can then brace that into your arm like so. That is dumb, and I don't want it, and so I'm going to take that off because I have registered this one as a short-barreled rifle. So we're going to change it over to a shoulder stock. So in order to take this off, I have to take out these two screws. This, very conveniently, stows its own hex wrench, which is also usable for some other bits of the gun. So we'll pull that out. Full disclosure, by the way, SIG sent me this pistol to film, although the SBR is on me. All right, so these two screws come out. That comes off. Nobody wants that. And then I have my choice of 3 different lengths of stock that they offer. So the first one is, it's the same length as the brace, which is to say this is as short as you can make the gun, but the back strap here is centered and it's longer to function as a proper shoulder rest. Then we have 2 options. This one increases your length of pull a bit, and this one actually gives you a shoulder cheek weld, which is kind of cool. So I'm going to start with the little short one, and we'll try all 3 of them and see which one of these I think is the optimal length for this. All right, if you didn't watch the previous video, the quick recap here is the Flux Raider is a chassis system that you can drop a SIG 320 pistol into, and it functions as a whole PDW. So it's a very compact package here, as you can see. This is the SIG Legion version, which comes with an integrated compensator on the end of the slide. Pretty cool. Also the only way to get the fancy gray color instead of plain generic black. But we have space for 2 magazines. So we have a front magazine storage compartment, and we have the actual grip where the regular magazine goes in. These will take all standard SIG 320 mags. So these are 21 rounders. You can also put the 30s, the extended 30s in there. We do have an ambidextrous safety here, both sides. That is totally essential on a gun like this, in my opinion. And it works just by blocking the trigger, physically prevents the trigger from being pulled. So the back end comes with a piece of Picatinny rail for mounting an optic. I went ahead and put a Burris Fastfire 4 on there. It is a relatively inexpensive optic. It has the option of being fully hooded, which I like, and what was particularly convenient in this case is it attaches directly to Picatinny rail via that one clamp. So why not? All right, now one lever extends the stock, locks it fully in place, and we're good to go. All right, this is a very short length of pull. So that lets you get a 3rd point of contact on your shoulder, but then your face is up here, just on the steel braces. They are rounded a bit on the edges, so it's not particularly uncomfortable like it could be, but this is definitely a very short little carbine. All right, let's try extending that a little bit and see how it fares. Let's take the short stock off and let's try the medium length stock. Now, there is a replacement rear cover here that you need to have. It comes with the stock. It just has a slightly different profile to accommodate the cheek weld of the stock there, but I've already got that in place. All right, medium length. Wow! I love the fact that this reliably extends all the way out. It'll probably slow down a little bit when the gun gets dirty, but for now, man, you just hit the lever and there it is, locked in place. Oh, right. I do have to cycle around into it first. So Jordan, you're kind of cringing over there. I was wondering if this compensator is going to be unpleasant for people around the gun. Is it?
It's a little unpleasant.
Yeah. When I first, when I was actually playing with one of the USW 320s by B&T, I thought it'd be really clever to have a compensator on that thing as well. And that compensator was actually obnoxious for me and for anybody around the gun. This isn't really an issue for me. It's definitely louder for people around than it needs to be. And to be honest with you, I don't think it's really necessary. The fact that you've got the extra point of contact here, to me means you don't really need that negligible bit of muzzle climb compensation that brake is providing. Anyway, side note. This stock is a more comfortable length of pull for sure, but it's not giving me a cheek weld. So my face is still sitting out here on the rails, but it's farther out, which makes this a little more comfortable. One of the inevitable compromises of a PDW system like this is that it's always, the whole point is to make it short and compact. And if it's long enough to be really comfortable, generally means the gun's not as compact as it could be, and you're compromising your concealability and your portability. Where if you make it as small as it possibly can be, like the Flux with its standard minimum length stock, yeah, then you're compromising your shootability. So which is more important? That's a question up to the individual shooter. But yeah, I feel like with this length, it comes up and I don't have to scrunch my face into place, which you kind of do with the minimum length stock. So, all right, let's go ahead and try the third and longest one. And again, if you didn't see the original video, there is a magazine release right up in here that drops both magazines, which is really handy. In theory, the way you actually use that is, my magazine is empty. What I will do is grab the front one, hit the release with my thumb, reload it, drop the slide, and I'm ready to keep shooting. We also have the standard release right there, which is not great for left-handers, but allows you to drop just the rear mag. And you also have this one, which allows you to also just drop the rear mag, but frankly, it's not any more convenient for lefties. All right, and now the longest of the stocks, which adds another inch and a half or so to the length of pull. All right, that is definitely making the gun overall substantially longer than if we just had this guy sitting right there. All right, now we got the big stock, so we're going to break out the big magazines as well. Wahaha! Kawamo! That actually gives me a cheek weld. So it's not, it's sort of a vertical stance to get a cheek weld like that. If you're used to hunkering down into the gun, you're still going to be pulling your face forward here. But if you want to cheek weld with it, this one will do it. And honestly, this almost feels like too much length of pull for me. I mean, I guess too much is easier to work with than too little, but yeah, to me, if I'm using this for a cheek weld, my stance is a little too upright and a little too backwards. If I'm leaning into it, I really don't need all of this length. So do a little more shooting. Ooh, I'm out of ammo. And right-handed, this mag release actually works quite well, as does that one. Left-handed, not so much. One of my mounting screws has come off of my Burris Fastfire. Listen to that. See it in there? Whoop. That's slightly awkward.
Is that the new German T-post feature?
I'm desperately trying to come up with a good comeback on that. I got nothing. Yeah, I don't know what that is, but it's not a good thing. And in order to take this hood off, I have to get the extra micro teeny wrench to take these two screws out, which, by the way, also prevent me from adjusting the windage, or the elevation dial, which is inside there. So you have to zero this first and then put the shield on it.
And Loctite the screws before you put the shield on.
That, I think, would have been a good recommendation, yes.
I was thinking, what if instead of 2 hex screws, it was just like a captive detent pin, like on an AR?
Well, so I think there are a couple things about that. First off, these screws actually screw into the second rail. So it's already a metal rail that they just have to thread, which means this component doesn't have anything going on in it. So it's easier to make. And frankly, it's not something that you're going to be changing very often. Would it be convenient to have this like quick detach instead? Yeah, but really what you ought to do is pick the stock that makes sense for you and just put that one on there and leave it. And this method with 2 screws is going to be more secure. They're mounted crosswise to the recoil, so I would probably put a little bit of Loctite on them, but I don't think it's all that significant. Like, it's not super important. And it's simple, and it keeps the cost down. I'd probably do it this way myself, too. If it were an AR, of course, we'd have to be asking, why aren't these retained? They have to be retained screws. All right, so my initial thought here was, well, of course, you're going to want to use the longest stock that you can within the space constraints of whatever your purpose for having this is. And having tried all 3 of them, I've now changed that. The original hypothesis, wrong. My actual conclusion is that medium length one, at least for me, is the ideal one to use. It gives me the right length of pull to make it really comfortable to use, adds a minimal amount of length. Maybe there are some situations where this is too much added length, but you know, the difference between this and that, not that significant. So that's what I'm going to be leaving on this gun. Note there is you do have a QD cup there if you want to put a sling on it. Yeah, for me, that medium length, very comfortable. And now my dot is, oh, I had to shake it and the dot came back. This is, tell you what, very happy with the Flux Raider. Not so super excited about the Fast Fire 4. If you're going to get one of these, put a better optic on it. But, all right, overall, gun has been, in fact, completely, flawlessly reliable, which is fantastic. You'd think that's normal. It doesn't happen as much as you might expect. And with this one, it did happen. So, great gun. I love the little PDW concept. If you're not sure about it, honestly, BrassFacts did a really good couple of videos on the Flux and the purpose of PDWs. So if you're curious about that, definitely check out his videos on this same sort of subject. I think what I am going to do is I'm going to get rid of the Burris. I am actually going to get one of those Holosun thermal red dots. I'm going to put it on there, and I'm going to use this for our night rifle match Moons Out 2025 coming up in the spring. So that's a few months off still, but I think that's going to be a really interesting test of both Holosun's thermal red dot that we've all been hearing about for a year or two now, and also the Flux Raider. Like, what can I pull off with this at night with a thermal scope or a thermal dot? It'll be fun either way. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks again to SIG for providing the pistol here. Big thanks to Ben from Flux for all the background information, most of which you saw in the previous video on the development and the history of the Flux Raider. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.